Let's start at the beginning. You may think you know the story, but not quite.
And we're back with our ongoing look at the Marvel Rivals character design art style and applying it to our DC characters. In my previous video, I tried to unpack that unique Marvel Rivals color design style and apply it to our DC characters, which last week was Superman and Wonder Woman. How successful was I? I think I need to learn a few more things, but I didn't think they turned out too bad. But let's see what we can do today, because we're coloring Batman, and I'm designing Black Canary and adding the colors to her as well. How will our rivalized DC characters turn out this week? Well, let's find out. Thank you so much for joining me today as I continue to check out the Marvel Rivals art style and apply it to DC characters in a fun artistic character design study, and it's just kind of fun. I was so inspired by the art style of the Marvel Rivals game by NetEase and Marvel Games that I had to sort of unpack it and learn from it. And what better way than to apply it to some DC characters? And the response from you guys has been amazing, and I'm so grateful. And while I don't claim to be a master of this style, my hope is that we all learn a little something through these videos and hopefully find some inspiration to create our own characters and design styles. So how did my rivalized Superman and Wonder Woman turn out? Well, obviously they're not perfect, and if I was going to design them again, I would probably adjust a few things. But you guys seem pretty positive about them in the comments, along with some insightful critiques. Now, my goal for designing the line art for these DC characters was to not only capture the Marvel Rivals design style and character art style, but also to maintain that distinct DC look and feel. And if we were actually conceptualizing these DC characters for a new game or production, we would be designing multiple versions of these characters in rough color formats before finalizing any singular look or design. But for these videos, I'm just kind of hammering out my first or second design and trying to learn the rest as I go. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you're new here, please like and subscribe, and I'll continue to make videos learning about comic art, design, and character design. So let's get into it. In my original DC Rivals video, I designed the line art for this Batman. And as I'm looking at it, I realize, like my Superman design, he's not quite big enough to really fit the Marvel Rivals style. So let's adjust his base design here a little bit and make him a little thicker. A complete redesign for this Batman character probably would have been a good idea, but I decided to, for the sake of time, just modify the existing design. So all I really did was push his shoulders back, make his arms a little thicker, elongate his legs a little bit, and adjust his stance. I'm also going to add a slight adjustment to his face and his head shape here. And now I'm just going to tidy up that ink line, but I think I'm also going to thicken up his cape a little bit, just give it a little extra something. And now I'm going to duplicate my line art and start laying down my color flats. And this is usually where I pick my colors and decide what colors I want. And I think for this Batman, I really want to go with the blue and gray suit. Of course, it'll be a modernized version of it, but I love that nostalgic DC look, and I like bringing that old school design sense and color choices to this modern Marvel Rival style art. I really think there's something uniquely nostalgic about the DC characters. I mean, many of these characters have been around since the 30s. Both our parents and grandparents have grown up with these characters in some form, and I think that's pretty cool. So let's speed these OG Batman colors along and see what we end up with. And here I'm just adding some shadow tones to the cape, and then I'm going to add some shadow tones to the color flats to give the character some depth and some shadows on his face and cape. And just like I did with my Superman and Wonder Woman color designs, I'm going with a light source that comes from screen right, which makes the Batman character's figure shadows on the screen left. So on a separate layer, I'll start brushing in some transparent shadows around the drapery in his face and his costume. But then I'm also going to bring in my airbrush and then lay in some shadows and erase any overlap. And here I'm just going to bring in my transparent watercolor brush from Clip Studio and just start laying down some tones and yeah, just layering more tones and more colors to bring shape to his costume and his muscles. One thing I noticed about the Marvel Rivals painting style is that some of the colors are not blended very well. They're sort of just layered on top of one another, and yeah, with this loose sort of rough painting style. And I'm attempting to reproduce that here in these colors while also trying to blend that black line into being a more shadow line. So it's not these hard black lines. And now I'll add that solid rim light on the left side. And I'll also add like thinner white highlights around the edges of his costume and some of his armor and tech. It helps to sell the idea that parts of his costume are a solid material and are somewhat reflective and are catching the light. And now I'll start adding that Marvel Rival style magenta and cyan edge to the rim light. It really sells the depth of the character and it just adds a very unique and cool design look. In my previous DC Rivals video, some of you came up with some amazing names and titles for a DC Rivals game. And it just got me thinking, what would a DC Rivals game be called? Um, Perhaps Crisis Alliance? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I love reading your feedback and ideas, and I love hearing your ideas for new characters. So, yeah, let me know what you think of this Batman, and yeah, let me know what you'd like to see me add more of on this channel. And I think that about does it for this Batman. What do you think? Is he rivalized enough? To me, I think he turned out a lot better than my Superman and Wonder Woman from last week. However, he did take a little longer to do than those ones, so maybe I'm putting a little more effort into it, and maybe I'm just taking my time to really achieve that Rivals look. So Batman is done, and let's move on to another character. In the comments, I've gotten a ton of requests for different DC characters, and one that has come up quite often is Black Canary. So I'm going to start designing her now, and I'll start with some rough doodles. And here I'm having a little trouble finding a decent pose for her. So I'm just roughing out different pose ideas. And around this point is where I start to zero in on the pose that I'm really looking for. I want it to be a bit of an upshot. She's sort of looking down at us a little bit. And because Canary is a brawler, I really wanted to convey some strength and confidence with her character and pose. She really needs to look athletic, but also still beautiful. So I've adjusted her legs and I'm giving her a wide stance. And I'm having her do like a fist pound because she's ready to kick some ass. Thought that would look kind of cool. And now that I've settled on the pose, I'm going to start giving it a loose cleanup and I'll start working in some rough costume details, her hair flowing, facial details, stuff like that. So I'm really trying to stick with the rivals' female proportions and with their character designs. I'm trying to stick to that look, but I'm really trying to nail her traditional costume style. You know, she's got the fishnets, the long heels, the leather jacket. Um, yeah, I want to do that, but modernize it a little bit. And so I'm happy with the pencil roughs, and I'm just going to start laying down some ink lines, starting with her hair and her face. I always start with a face when I'm laying down my final ink lines. I don't know why. It's just a great place to start from and work your way down. I love digital inking in Clip Studio Paint. It's so smooth, so easy. I usually use the textured pen or the Real G pen, which also has a bit of a texture to it. And what that means is that it gives your line a certain texture and feel as if it was being inked on paper. And I used to do that quite a lot, inking on paper and creating comic pages on paper with pen and ink. It was fun, but it wasn't nearly as easy as it is to ink digitally. Now, there's a lot of different versions of Black Canary's costume. Some of you might hate this version. I'm just going with something that seemed very traditional, but I'm also modernizing it a little bit. And to me, she's always been a sexy character, and the Marvel Rival style certainly doesn't shy away from that. So I kind of leaned into that a little bit. And now I'm laying down my color flats throughout the character, choosing my colors, what I want to go with. I really love the idea of like yellow, like pops of yellow in her costume. Not a big fan of the bird motif, but I like the splashes of yellow against her black costume. I think is cool. Um, I didn't go with the mask. I know her original design, she had a face mask covering her eyes, and I know they did that in the Arrowverse shows, but decided not to go with it here. It's not used very often in a lot of designs, so I just went without it. And now I'm adding all my two tones and shadow areas. She's pretty fit and athletic, so I'm going to give her some nice abs here. Well, she is a superhero, and I guess all superheroes have pretty amazing abs, so I don't know. And now her color flats and two tones are done. And now I'm going to start blending her shaded areas. And like the other characters, her light source is going to be from screen right. Her shadow side will be on her left. And yeah, I'm just going to build up tone and depth through layering shadows and blending around her form to give her a sense of three-dimensional depth. So obviously these time-lapse videos of my drawing and painting process is sped up quite a bit. In fact, I've edited out large chunks just to speed up the whole video. But if there are any questions about the coloring drawing process that you want to ask me, put it in the comments and I will answer them as best I can and get back to you as soon as I can. And here I'll add some quick highlights to her hair and face. And then I'm going to bring in that airbrush so I can just shadow and give depth to yeah, her shadow side. I never go with like black for the airbrush. I always use a purple or blue to give her that shadow side. Using black as your airbrush tones will only make things look really muddy and yeah, not so good. And now we're almost done. I'm gonna bring in that hard white rim light on our left side. Then I'll add the cyan and magenta outlines to that light. And I think that'll be about it. I've got a couple more details and she should be done. And here is our Black Canary. What do you think? Is she rivalized enough? I'm actually pretty happy with her. I think I've nailed the colors a little more than on my previous attempts. Again, Black Canary and Batman, I put a little more time into these designs and these digital paintings than I did the previous designs. But they also took a fair bit longer as well. And if you're interested in downloading these two characters, I'll make them available in my shop. Just find the link in the description below. And it's a great way to support this channel and to support what I'm doing here. And if you do like what I'm doing, then please leave a comment, hit the like button, and if you're not already, please subscribe. I think I've got a few more of these DC rivals in me, and next week I think I'll take a look at The Flash and Green Lantern. So that's all for this week. Thank you so much for watching. All the best, and I will see you in the next one.